All right. Yeah. So last episode we talked about our beginnings, right? So today we're going to talk about where we are now and how we've kind of gotten to this point lately.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I just finished 75 Hard last week. 75 hard days.
Yeah.
But you were the one that suggested it to me originally.
Yeah, I'll just never forget that it was just that point where we just kept on going back and forth, and we just kept on all these different excuses and shit, and we just done. And I think it was what really triggered it was a conversation that we had that, you know, we had a health scare in the sense that you found a lump in your boob, and I remember that obviously the downside of being a small business owner, right? And you know, we provide our own health insurance, and at the time when we selected our health insurance, we selected our health insurance based on the kids.
On the kids, yeah.
On the kids. And
on who their doctor was, and what would be covered. And
he ended up retiring.
Yeah, I know.
And then,
he's still the best, though.
He is the best.
He
is the best, yeah. I mean, it was just one of those things. And then, but...
yeah, just not even thinking about ourselves, like what would happen if something happened to one or the other of us.
The downfall of being a parent,
right?
That, like, and how you put yourself last. But I think that what made me suggest 75 Hard was that because I'm like, what good are we to them if we don't take care of ourselves? Like that was like the realization that I had, that I'm just kind of like we're older, like we're getting older, like you know.
Yeah, as you always said, pissing on the fence of 40.
Yeah, exactly. Like pissing on the fence of 40, and you know, like I said, it's just like every day we wake up and like, you know.
Something else hurts.
Yeah, I get up a little bit slower. I lose a little bit more hair. I might have an extra like roll or not, something like that. And it was just, and like my eyesight sucks even more the next day. And it was just kind of like one of those things. And but I think it was more the perspective of everything we went through, because and how much our insurances like didn't cover for you, and it was just kind of like that stress. And ultimately we're like, screw it, like we'll come up out of pocket. We need the peace of mind to make sure that this is okay. And then
basically because I'm not 40 and it wasn't just a screening mammogram that I needed, it was a diagnostic one. We had to pay out of pocket for it, which we did, and that's fine. But it was stressful. It was a stressful time, and I just, like you said, realized like I run the household, right? I mean,
you run more than that. I mean, it's just if there's one thing that's not spoken with the amount of enthusiasm or the amount of support that it is like stay-at-home moms. Like I cannot. I mean, you tried going back to work once, and I think it was like, and you were doing overnights because obviously with the kids and the balance, and I was running a business and things like that, and you know, I think it was probably like 2 days, and I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I know.
I miss you in bed. This is not working. This is like, we will figure something else out.
Yeah.
But not only that, it's just like you're the hub. Like everything goes through you. Like without you, it's like we all fall apart. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't give it the credit that it deserves. Like, the role of a stay-at-home mom is so critical in the development of your kids. You know, and just even for me, like I need you. Like Jesus Christ, like I'm just like I don't remember anything. My memory is awful, but the thing is that like you, it's just like without you, I literally, like, I don't know, I would forget my head. You know?
Right. And I think that was kind of like the realization that I came to, like when I'm like, oh my God, like and the mass that I have is benign, like it just has to be monitored every 6 months from here going forward. But thinking about the alternative, like if I were sick, like, and and I'm like, I don't even think about myself. I don't take care of myself, right? I had lost weight from my highest point, like towards like the end of 2021 going into 2022. I had lost like about 30 pounds. But then when grandpa died, like that kind of, I'm such an emotional eater, that kind of went to the wayside. And I kept losing and gaining the same 10 pounds, like, and it was driving me crazy. And so I think when you suggested like, yeah, do 75 hard, I was like, yeah, you know what? I think that is what, I think I need something like very disciplined, very strict, because it's insane, obviously, but it's 2 45-minute workouts a day, one of which has to be outside no matter what the weather is. Drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages of nonfiction a day, which that part's easy for me. I love to read, so that's fine. Anyways, no cheat meals, no alcohol, follow a diet, and take a progress picture every day. So it's intense. I mean, it eats up a lot of your time, right? You have to be super, super efficient with your time when you're doing it.
And then that was like the biggest thing too, because I remember like when we first started it, we started it together. It was just one of those things that like I remember like we both said to one another, we're like, just fuck it, let's just start. Yeah. And then like literally we made that decision. We started the next day. Like we didn't wait till Monday because like we realized like when you say, oh, I'm gonna wait till Monday, I'm gonna get the last few days in. I'm like, you're already setting yourself up for failure. Like you're just basically like, I'm ready to get my next excuse going. And it's just kind of like that was
let me gain another 5 pounds before Monday.
Let me gain my weight just to lose it all back. And it's just fuck. It's just like then you realize like how flawed logic is sometimes. You're just like, yo, this does not make sense. But unfortunately, that's human nature, right? That's how we are. And I remember like we started it together, and it was awesome. Like, and it was just things that we were doing together. Obviously, the support in one another and stuff like that. But my reasons for failing had nothing more to do than the fact of that. For me, it was what I feel it was bad timing. We were down people, and
that was horrible timing. You were finishing 2 humongous projects in Saugus and Somerville. We live in Methuen, so like that's a pretty far ride. Was that when like one of your guys threw out his back? He was out. It was a nightmare. We
couldn't find help. We had deadlines to hit.
Yeah, it was
like it was backs against the wall, and big shout out to JoJo. Like one of my guys. Like I love my guys. That was the biggest thing, man. That
that was a lot.
It was a lot. So I would I'm waking up at 4. I'm getting my workouts in. I'm doing my thing throughout the day. But then I'm having a, strenuous day. Like I'm working and like we'd be working from like 6:30, 7:30 in the morning till like 7 o'clock at night. And then we have an hour
to get home
through traffic. And then for me, like my life as the boss, right? Like I have to do paperwork. I have to invoice. I have to estimate. I have to follow up. I have to pull permits. Like it's everything.
You want to see your kids.
I want to see my kids. Like I want to be there for you. Like, there's all these different things, and I did it, but it got to a point of where I'm like, the business was suffering a little bit because I'm like, falling behind on invoicing. I'm falling behind on this. I'm falling behind on that because I'm trying to squeeze in this one outside 45-minute. My day doesn't include any of that activity.
Yeah.
And on top of that, and like I said, ultimately in the end, was I still undisciplined with certain time frames in the day? Yeah. Is there a level of excuses to this? Yes, absolutely. Like I can say that.
Yeah, you're willing to own that.
I'm willing to own that. Like I think about it now. I'm like, you know what? If I was a little bit better at my time, I definitely could have managed that. Yes, it was a hard time, and yes, it sucked. But there was times that I'm like, you know what? I could have left a little bit earlier. I didn't need to do that because it wouldn't have really affected my next day. So it was understanding the fact of that. Those little moments, like there were moments where I was undisciplined with my time, in which that's still something that I battle with today. Like those
Yeah.
are things, and obviously on the quest of betterment, right? Like you have to acknowledge those faults. Like you have to acknowledge like those shortcomings. It's just like, what is it that I do? Like what is it in my day? Like for instance, like you made the great suggestion. Like one thing that I love that we do is like we have our walks, and we'll go out just you and I, leave the babies there with the kids, and
Take the dog.
take the dog, and we'll go off on our walks.
Yeah.
And kind of realign and kind of reconnect and kind of go through things, and you'll point out things that be like, hey, well, why don't you try this? Like, and I'm like, yeah, like, like you're right. I because you know me, like, and it's just like you know me better than anybody else. So it's just kind of like, I'll tell you like those things that I don't like and about myself, and then you'll kind of make those suggestions, and it's just, and you're right. Like, and I'll make those changes and realize that, yeah, like, you know what, like this is for the better. Like, and
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of did, like, you stayed on everything with 75 hard except for the 2 45-minute workouts.
Right.
I mean, you were still working out, you were still eating clean, like things of that nature, just not fully on it.
Right. Like
I was proud of myself for staying on even after you stopped, because I was like, well, I don't know. But once I hit like day 30, I was like, yeah, I'm not stopping now, because I've already done this for 30 days. Like, I'm just going to keep doing it.
Right.
And then I honestly ended up loving it, because to acknowledge my own flaws, I would be like, I have no time in the day. I'm running from here to here to, I'm all over the place with the kids, and then I got to do laundry, and I got to make dinner, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But guess what? I still did all those things, and I did 75 hard on top of it. So I was like really not efficient with my time.
You want to know what's even crazy? Like, I don't think you were giving like yourself all the credit of what it is you fucking did, because like that was the crazy thing. Because like we have, just so everyone knows, we have 5 kids. We have 5 daughters. We're talking sports, we're talking friends, we're talking school groups, we're talking preschool, we're talking play dates, we're talking, and then never mind that, we're talking laundry, taking care of the house, taking care of the dog, taking care of me, make sure I have clothes, packing me a lunch, like all these different things. It's like, it's insane. Like there's a lot of times I don't know how the hell you do it, especially all the driving. Like, right? So it's just like you can't work out while you're driving. Like it's just all the time that you spend in the car that like, you're literally being like, you know what? I'm gonna drop the kids off because I have to be here at this time. So I'm gonna go to this park and do my outside walk, or I'm gonna do my outside workout in that time frame. So I think it was just definitely making you more efficient with your time.
Yeah, I was realizing how much time I actually wasted.
And that's.
And
honestly,
it's crazy. It's crazy to think, because I thought I was fucking jam-packed in the day, right? Yeah. I was like, oh God, like I don't have 15 minutes to myself, but I did.
Yeah, and then that's just the thing. Is like that's the reasons why I think I can say that I made excuses, because look at your day. Like you being a boss, I think to a certain degree you can shut it off and on. Being a mom, you can't shut off and on. You're a mom 24/7.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And like you did it. And like that's why like you're a huge motivator for me in that sense. Like and that's why I'm saying, I'm like, you know what? Like, you pussy. No, it's like I'm like, fuck up.
You
like
weak. You weak.
I know.
No, I would not say that.
No.
It was a crazy, crazy time.
It was a
you.
lot, but like I said, I think I ultimately I did give up, and like I can acknowledge that for sure, and it's definitely things that I'm working towards and being different about, and
I'm gonna do it again, so you can do it again.
yeah, it's just sack up.
Yeah,
but it's like one of those things, right? Like it's definitely acknowledging that, and like you said, it's just like I didn't want to derail you either. So it was just like, I'm like, well, I'm gonna stay on. I'm gonna stay on to the best of my capacity.
Right.
In which basically what that ultimately led up to is that like I would get everything done minus like one workout.
Yeah, the outdoor workout.
Right.
But you would still come on my walks with me a lot.
Right, for sure. But it was like, there was, for the most part, like, what if I was to think about it, if it was 75 hard, it was probably more like 95 hard for me. Like in the sense of that, like it probably took me 95 days to do 75 days.
Yeah.
Because I kind of still stayed with it, but obviously not the full reset.
Yeah.
But the other thing is too is that not letting you give up either. Like it was like those times. I remember I forget that one night.
Oh my God. It was like 9 o'clock and I just was so busy that day because the kids had dentist appointments and I just had no time.
There's times that the babies only want you.
Yeah.
And like you have to put them to bed and here you are, you have like a baby in each arm. You're settled in bed. Like you're like, this is like...
Yeah, and I like a 7:30 p.m. bedtime.
No, but right, like you're in no man's land. You're in no man's land. You're just like comfy in your pillow. You got your babies, you're warm. And you're like, why am I going to get out of this bed right now?
You're like, get up and ride the bike. And I'm like, why are you so mean to me?
Yeah, I'm just like, you don't love me. I do love you. That's why I'm telling you to get your ass up. Like,
I know. Seriously.
And, like, you would just like begrudgingly get out of bed. You're just like,
yep. But then I did it, and then I was so proud of myself for not giving up. And honestly, like, the kids supported me so much through it too. The older girls, like, I could not have done it without them, like, helping me out with the babies, like, being like, Mia especially is like so like, oh my God, like you're doing such a good job, like, she's
unreal.
Yeah, she is.
She's unreal in her own right.
But Carly and Kiara watched them so much for me, so I could walk the dogs, or so I could actually do a workout in the basement without them, which most of my workouts in the basement were with them down there.
Yeah.
But in a sense, like, I liked that too, because now, like, you'll see, like, Camila and Selena, like, they'll be like, oh, Mommy, look, like, I'm exercising.
Yeah. And so I think
which I think is awesome.
Because it was funny, was that, like, those were, like, the kids were probably our major reasons for wanting to change, right? It's when you think about
absolutely.
it, like, it's
definitely why we stopped drinking.
Facts. Like, it got to that point where, we didn't just realize just how much we were. And we're not saying that we're raging alcoholics. Like, it's just nothing. We're not saying that at all. It's the fact of the matter was that whenever we were out with people in general, or just like with the neighbors and hanging out, we had to be drinking, right? And that's what it was.
Yeah.
We were drinking, and the thing is that you and I can put them away, and this goes back to what you were saying, like we were gaining and losing to say 5-10 pounds because we were realizing that in drinking, all of our bad habits came out.
Yeah.
Like it was like we eat like shit, like we we would procrastinate. I know, like for me,
for sure.
I would procrastinate so much because of that.
But it just feels so lazy the next day, right? And like, you have 5 kids.
Banged up.
Yeah, we have 5 kids that want to like play, and you know, like, and then you're like, like,
let's go get pancakes.
Yeah, exactly. I need hash browns,
Yeah.
And I just want to clarify, we absolutely love our neighbors. They're our best friends in the world. This was not their fault that we were drinking all the time. Okay, it was our choice.
We heard you.
Yeah,
no, it has nothing to do with that. It's honestly.
But we were drinking every weekend, and a couple of times for me, like, I would stop drinking. And then, it was someone's birthday or whatever, right? And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to drink tonight. Then because I hadn't drank or whatever, I would get sick. And then, like, there were times that I threw up in front of Camila and Selena.
Yeah.
And I would wake up the next day and be like, oh my God, like, I'm heartbroken. Like, when
like, you feel like the worst mother.
I feel like the worst mother in the world when Cammie is saying to me, like, oh, Mommy, do you feel better? And I'm like, I threw up because I was drinking. Like, that's horrible,
Yeah.
And they were always with us. Like, our friends love our kids. Our kids were always with us, like, when we would be drinking like this. And then I'm like, what are we showing them? That, like, this is the only way you can hang out with your friends or... Right. Go to a concert or whatever, is like, you have to be drinking. Like, I just don't want that. I don't, I'm sure they're going to drink. I'm sure, whatever, but I don't want them to feel like that's the only way that you can have a good time.
Right. And like, to kind of like piggyback on that, I remember like back when we lived in Lynn and, coming home from work, right? And, as soon as I hit the couch, all of a sudden, like, Camila, she's a kid, right? Like,
Two,
I remember,
probably,
like,
right? Not
yeah,
even,
like, me growing up Mexican, like, freaking, like, it was the funniest thing. It's like you almost taught this, like, hey, go to the cooler, give me a beer. Like,
Yeah.
It was just like, that was just how it was, right? And it was just funny because I'm just sitting there, not funny, because it was great until I realized what it was that how she saw me. And, like, I became that dad of, like, my dad's on the couch, he needs to have a beer in his hand.
Yeah.
And then just one day, like, all of a sudden, like, I'm just sitting at the couch, I'm just there relaxing, all of a sudden here comes, like, Camille, like, in her diaper, and hands me a beer, and I'm like, oh, baby, I don't want this. And I'm like, then it hit me, like, a part of me's like, it'll be like, oh, shit, good idea. Like, I was just like, but then it was this one day that literally I'm like, this is how she sees me.
Yeah.
Like, this is how, like, she's 2 years old. She doesn't know what this is. But she associates that when I sit here, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to be that dad. Like, I grew up with that. I grew up with, like, my dad not playing with me because he would rather drink. I grew up with my dad not talking to me because he'd rather drink. I grew up with, seeing all of that and, whether it be physical, emotional, the mental abuse and stuff like that from drinking.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't want to do that to them. And that was like one of the first times. And obviously, like, you don't know how to stop, right? Like, it's just one of those things, or that you don't really realize, like, just the impact it has. Like, and I think that, and that's why we struggled. Like, I think.
Yeah, we stopped and started a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
Stopped
We definitely
and started
did.
a lot. Like,
I know for myself I did. Like, I quit a few times and then would be like, oh, well, like, we're going to a concert, so, like, I'll have a couple or whatever.
Right.
Or I'm only going to drink if we go out to dinner or whatever. I always had an excuse. Like, well, if we're, I like the taste of a cocktail with my meal, right? Or whatever. I want a drink in my hand when we're at a concert. But I think for me, like, so I stopped drinking. The last drink that I had were in August when we went to the Morgan Wallen concert. And I had like 3 Trulies or something.
Yeah.
I barely drank over like the course of like a 10-hour day. Carly was with us. And so I was, of course, like, sober because we were there for 10 hours and I had 3 seltzers, right? But I realized, I'm like, what a waste. I was completely sober. I had an absolute blast. We were singing, we were dancing. Yeah. I didn't need those drinks. Why did I drink them?
Yeah.
Right? It's just like conditioning almost, like, oh, well, I'm here, so I should have a drink. But I'm like, I also wasted $45 because they are God knows how expensive at Fenway.
$22 at Fenway.
Yeah. And it's like, for what?
Yeah.
I didn't need them.
It's like, and also it's like you're missing the concert because you're in a freaking mile long line.
Yeah, the line is like crazy,
Waiting for the concession guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's...
so for me, it was just kind of like, yeah, I just think I'm going to be done. And this time I really was. And I have no intentions of starting again. I actually don't miss it. Because for me, too, was the drinking anxiety. Because even if I wasn't, like, what I would consider super drunk, the next day I would be sitting there evaluating everything that I said to everyone. Like, was I oversharing? Did I say something that was, like, meaner than I intended it to be, that I wouldn't have said if I wasn't drinking? And that anxiety would consume me. Like, that's worse than the hangover for me.
But but it's kind of like when do 75 hard, like this, like that also has like helped your anxiety immensely because you would also, like, when you're getting close up to like your monthly, right? Like when you get close to like your period, like you would just kind of like, it would just all of a sudden, like you would just see the shift. It was like almost like, I'm like, wow, like, and it's not like PMS or anything, but I would just notice like that shift into you of like where your anxiety would peak.
Yeah.
But then when you started doing 75 hard, you started getting like your weight and everything in check and like your health in check, how much you were just like like so much different.
I barely had anxiety, which is crazy.
Which is crazy.
And I've had it my entire life.
Right.
You know, well, as long as I can remember, you know.
Right.
Almost everyone in my family has it.
Right.
But it also helped so much, like, with my overstimulation, too. Because I get really, really overstimulated with the kids. Like, especially towards the end of the day. Like, if I'm making dinner, the dog's barking, running around. The kids are running around, screaming.
Yeah, I'm on work calls.
Yeah, he's
like,
taking phone calls. His phone is ringing. On. The kids are watching something on their phones or trying to talk to me about their day. And I'm like, no, please, please. Like, my brain is on fire. Yeah. My brain is on fire. But I noticed when I ate clean from doing 75 hard, and when I incorporated so much movement into my day doing 75 hard, most of that went away.
Right.
Some of it minimal, or like little moments of it, or if something happens, right? But not
natural.
Yeah, but not like the day-to-day anxiety that I was living with. And obviously just not drinking helps with that too.
Yeah, because it was funny because you brought up the whole like Morgan Wallen concert and how like exactly like I wasn't like I think I probably had like two or three drinks as well throughout the whole span of the day. And I remember like because like we love concerts, so we go to concerts like all the time and stuff like that. And I remember when we went to the first Luke Combs concert that we went to, like we're on the floor.
And the one at the garden. Yeah. Oh my god.
But like we were shithouse. Like, we were absolutely pickled. Like I'm getting shots given to me. I don't even know where it even came from. I'm like, oh yeah, good, yeah. But there's glimpses of the night I do not remember. And I'm just like,
the next morning my sister came up like and was like,
the photos, oh my God, I'm like, who am I hugging?
She's like, who is Kyle with in this photo? And I'm like, I have no idea. And all three of us were there, so we should have known.
It was Spencer.
That was his name.
It was Spencer.
Yeah.
And he was a good guy.
But yeah, there are parts of that night that we don't even remember, and we spent so much money on those tickets, you know?
And it's just like, and I'm like, damn, who knows? Like, and granted, it was an experience in itself, and it's a funny story now, but I still think back to it. I'm like, damn, not only that, it's just like, also think about like, you having a good time can be ruining somebody else's. Like,
yeah.
Like, remember, like, when Bonnie barreled into that lady?
Yeah.
So it was like that weird thing. But, you know, when I think about, you know, alcohol and the role that it played in my life and things like that, and it's not really, nothing more than just how you said, it's like how conditioned you are. Like, just like how, like, conditioned you are to, like, this is the way and how, like, you need to have fun. This is the way how you need to be in certain social interactions, right?
Yeah.
That you just do it for the sake of doing it. Like, you're not even doing it because like you want to and things like that. And you know, for me, one of the pivotal moments where I realized that and how drinking was bad for me was, you know, if you guys don't know me, like, you know, I have an electrical page, you know, did my social media influencing, things like that. You know, it's afforded me a lot of greatness. It's afforded me a lot of great opportunities. And some of those opportunities came in the forms of being and flying out with different manufacturers and things like that and having a great time and meeting a lot of great people. And I do not take back or anything that I did in meeting those people, right? Like, those people are brothers to me, like, and like, just people that I love and the memories and everything else like that. But also what came along with that were instances where the things I hated about myself came out.
Yeah.
And the problem was that, like, as much as growth and as much change as I made in my life to become a better person, it unveiled the things that were still there. And you know, this all happened in Austin. We flew out for a convention, and it was one of those things where, and this was like a very trying time in our marriage. Like, this is something that a lot of people did not understand. Like, we were at a very scary moment in our marriage. Not saying like we would ever divorce or anything. We're not saying that at all. It was just that for how we always are,
Yeah, it was the hardest point in our
It
marriage
was
up
the
to this point,
hardest
I would
point.
say.
It was the hardest point. And, you know, while I'm in the thick of it, you know, and basically what it was is that we're out, we're doing, you know, all our influencing stuff, we're with people and, you know, not understanding, like, there I am, right? I'm doing this because I want to build something for my family, right? Like, and this is like my logic, and I'm gonna explain like the way how like my logic was and the way how like my brain was working is that like here I am, I'm doing this for my family. I'm like, I'm here to get our company out. I'm here to get our brand out. I'm here on behalf of our family because this is gonna put us in a better position, right? And it's all these validations that I have, right? And I'm thinking like, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm not, you know, having sex with anybody else. I'm not kissing anybody else. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. These are things I'm not doing, right? So I'm okay, right? This is what it is that I'm saying to myself. And then you would say things to me while, because like we're sharing, obviously things get shared and you know, we get tagged and stuff. And, you know, we would share these things. And, you know, obviously I'm drinking. I'm not seeing the way how it looks on the outside. I'm not seeing it for what it is. But here you are, like you are seeing it for what it is. And you would say like, what are you doing?
Right. I mean, I think for me, it was like, I'm home with all our kids, right? And I'm just doing our day to day and whatever. And you know me, like, I always want to support you in everything that you do, right? So I'm like, yeah, go, like, have a good time. But I think, like, we have some boundaries in our marriage, right? And, like, I felt like those boundaries would just completely go out the window when you were drinking.
Yeah, I punted those.
Yeah, like they were long gone, right?
It was a punt.
And for me, it was like, you would never disrespect me like this if you weren't drinking. You just wouldn't. Right? And I think, you know, at first you were like, well, everyone drinks in these situations. Like, I have to drink. And I'm like, this is, you know, you're telling me that you're going here for work. And then all I'm seeing on Instagram is like you out partying or like you at the bar with like a 25-year-old girl who's showing you around and she's sharing this to her personal page and you're sharing it. Like this is not a position you would ever put yourself in if you weren't drinking. So like, why do you think this is okay?
Yeah.
You know? And at first, like, you really pushed back on me.
Oh, my heels were dug.
Yeah.
Because you know what it was? It was like that bravado part of me came out in the sense of that, and then it wasn't until I got home and we talked about it.
Yeah, when I picked you up from the airport, and I was like, no, this is not happening.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, we are talking about this, and like, you're, you know, but that was only the beginning because there was, you know, kind of more stuff that happened.
There was. And then, like, I think in letting you kind of really, I think I stayed quiet after, like, I kept on saying, like, and that was a problem that I realized that that I had, is that I was not even listening to you.
Yeah.
Like, I was listening with the intent of responding, right? Like, I'm just like, but the worst part is, like, this kind of goes back to how I was, like, in the beginning, right? Like, I'm like, here I am making you feel crazy for me being fucking crazy. Like, it's just like, I'm like, no, like, and you're getting crazy because you think I'm saying, like, because, like, I'm trying to make it seem like as if I'm sane, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just, like, this, like, magnification of, like, this, like, craziness, right? And, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm justifying this behavior for the simple fact of, like, I am putting our family in a better position.
Yeah.
You need to be cutting me some slack. I'm playing the game. This is how the game is played. I am just doing whatever it is I have to do.
Right.
And that was and those were like words I said to you, like, and that was where you're like, no. Like, and I remember you saying, like, you disrespected me.
Yeah, like you're married. Like at what
Right.
point do you think that like this is okay behavior to have? And you were like, I know I'm married. And I'm like, then why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, for me, it was like, I would express my, I don't know, like, not anger, I guess, but like my feelings about
anger,
that.
yeah.
I mean, there was anger. There was
Yeah,
anger.
it was anger.
But I would express my feelings about it while you were still there, right? And then you'd be like, okay, like, well, fine. Like, I'm just, you know, I'm not going to drink tonight. I'm not going to drink tonight. And
Yeah.
I remember you were like, I'm going to, like, not even dress like I'm going out. Like, I'm just going to go to the dinner and I'm not going to drink.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Oh,
you ended up at the bar. You weren't home till 2. You weren't back till 2 a.m. Like, you know, you were fraternizing with, like, you know,
Yeah.
people that I specifically asked you to stay away from. And then you were telling me that you did stay away from them. And then things were coming up on social media that I'm like, you have your arm around her in that picture. So you weren't staying away from her, right?
Yeah.
So it felt like dishonesty too at that point.
And a lot of that, and you know, so this kind of plays into like, you know, feeling that where I was in that mindset of like, because like I did try to stay away, but obviously the world of social media and the way how it works, it's all about relationships and
come
networks.
take a picture. Come
People
say that.
want to see all these people taking photos together, and it's just one of those things. And that's like with me, I'm like, I'm thinking, like I said, I'm honestly thinking, and like my reasons for validating shitty behavior was that because I'm thinking it had everything to do for the betterment of my family.
Yeah.
That was just where I was. But then when I got back home and it finally hit me. Like it finally hit me why I validated shitty behavior.
Yeah.
Like I alluded in the previous episode, like, you know, my dad was an alcoholic. Like my dad was this person, and my whole entire life I promised my mom that, like, you know, I'm never gonna be like my dad. I'm never gonna be an alcoholic. Right? But I became the worst parts of him. I became the womanizer, I became the manipulator, I became the liar and the cheater and all these different things. I became the worst of him. But the problem was I was the worst of him all the time. But I hid it behind a smile. I hid it behind being smooth. I hid it behind all these different things. I was the worst narcissist alive, really was. And I knew and how to play the game. I knew and how to play people. Like I said, I've come a long way from it. I was a really shitty person. And when I saw you cry, and knowing I made you cry, and knowing I disrespected our marriage, and especially with how much I love you and how much I like I mean, everyone who knows me, like I'm insane about you. Like it's not anything that I make it a mystery.
Right.
Right? It's just like, you know, I'm like, when like people are like freaking badmouth their wives, say some shit, I'm like, dude, I'm like, you're on your own on that shit. I'm like, my wife's fucking lights out. I'm like, my wife kicks the shit out of your wife. Just like, and like, you know, it's like stuff like that, but it's like knowing, but then when that realization hit me
Yeah.
of like, oh my God, like, I'm doing this because it's all I've ever known. Like, I remember seeing like my dad, like being at parties and seeing my dad, like, you know, flirting with girls and flirting with women, and he used to flirt with his friends' wives and stuff like that. Like seeing him, the way how he moved and the way we did things, and like he would tell my mom, like, oh, like I didn't sleep with her, like you know, it was normal to me.
Yeah.
It was normal that this is the way how you act when you're drinking. Like this is normal, right? And it's just like, here I am thinking that just because I didn't physically have a relationship with somebody, that there's not emotional, like there's not such thing as like emotional cheating. Like, there's not.
Yeah.
I'm like disregarding all these other forms of infidelity or
It's just a slippery slope, right?
oh, big time, big
You
time.
know?
And it was just like one of those things. And then like I'll never forget that like when I had it, and when I was laying on the bed, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you
like,
were devastated. At
I was
that point.
devastated.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna put myself in front of a truck.
You were
like,
devastated.
because of how I disrespected you and I hurt you.
Yeah.
Because until I realized that, I was digging my heels that you were wrong.
Yeah.
Like I'm not right. Like I'm not wrong here. I'm doing what's best for us.
Right. And for me, I was like, how can this be best for us if this is how it's making me feel? That makes no sense.
No sense.
I would rather you not go, like, you know, and
Right.
again, I want to support you in everything you do. Like, and
Right.
you know that, like, this is your dream. Like, this is what you want. And I'm along for the ride with that. Like, I'm with you every step of the way. That's why I'm always like, yeah, go, like, do it. Like, I'm so proud of you for getting these opportunities. But at that point, I'm like, fuck these opportunities. Like, this is not what I want for our marriage. Like, to me, it's like, how can this be for our family if you are out just fucking getting wasted every night? How much networking can you possibly be doing? Right? Like, if you're incoherent and then your phone is dying and I can't get in touch with you, like, that's just not okay to me.
Oh, right. And then like, you know, getting back to that, I'm like, here I am thinking, I'm like, man, I'm like, the only reason why I'm afforded these opportunities that I have is that because I have your support. And then here you are at home alone, and I know that you're worried of being alone.
Yeah.
Like when someone breaks into the house, like all these different things, like all these things that didn't go into your head, and then it's just like you're there taking care of 5 kids.
Yeah.
You're there holding it down at home while I'm doing all these things, and I'm afforded these opportunities because you support me and you're allowing me to do that. So it was just like those were like that, you know?
Yeah.
So time out.